Good morning, guys. Thanks for listening to Coffee with Christ. If you haven't subscribed, hit the button below, share these with your friends. Let's have a conversation today. Let's talk about the empty tomb. So I've been thinking about this, but I want you to know this is like very new in my thoughts. And I was hesitant about even talking about it if I haven't got a firm wording, but I thought, these are my friends. I'm going to have a conversation about it. And so that's what I'm going to do today. And so the empty tomb, I was reading about in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John about the empty tomb. And I was thinking about the empty space, the empty tomb. So everyone had a perspective on that empty tomb, right? So the guards who was guarding the tomb, they had a perspective. The women who went to the tomb, Mary Magdalene, the disciples, the priest and the elders, they had a perception and a reaction to this empty tomb. And so, and they were all different. Some of them, it was fearful, it was shock, it was joy. The reaction was deception, and these were the priests and the elders. Then they were doing lying and bribery. At first there was doubt. From the disciples, they thought it sounded like nonsense, but yet they were curious. And then one version said they saw and believed. I mean, there was just all these different reactions to this emptiness, this empty tomb. And so I was thinking about it in terms of empty. Do we ever feel empty? Anybody else ever feel empty or feel like there's a void? Like something didn't work out the way we wanted it to? I was thinking about that and how empty isn't always a bad thing. Void isn't always the end of the world. It doesn't mean something horrible. Because we look at these and we have these reactions, and when we look at them from a human standpoint, when we look at empty from a human standpoint, that is usually something negative, like a lack, something bad. And our first reaction is that can't be from God. That can't be from God. There's this void, there's this emptiness, there's this missing piece, so it cannot be godly. But that's looking at it from our human standpoint, and that's what they did. Like, they were frightened and they thought it was nonsense. But the empty tomb was the place where the miracle had just happened. The void was where the resurrection, the life came. So from God's perspective, God's plan, the empty tomb was life, was salvation for all of humanity, the good, the bad, the ugly, the people who loved him, the people who don't love him. It was salvation, and they didn't even know it. And they did not know it. It was restoration and healing. That empty tomb was God's plan of great purpose for the earth. But if we look at that emptiness, from a human standpoint, it can look bad. So the encouragement, what I just want to bring on here as we think about this, the empty, barren places in your life. Are you looking at them from your perspective? Are you looking at your circumstances from a very human perspective? Because if you are, like most of us do, it's just like, put on the God lens. Let's meditate on his word, and let's look at it from God's perspective and God's plan, because I feel like it's much bigger than that. The emptiness or the void that you're feeling is much bigger than that. When we can look at it from God's eyes, we can get a better perspective and a full picture. And then we can walk in faith, and we can grab hold of the freedom and the restoration and the healing and the complete just fullness that Christ died for. So we're thinking on the empty tomb today. Just my encouragement, just do that today. Just think about that in your time and how that applies to your life and what that would mean. Have a great day, guys, and I will talk to you tomorrow.